Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back with more news and politics for the day, this time for Thursday, January the 30th, 2025. Let's go ahead and hop into this. This shouldn't be near as long of an episode. There's a lot I just left out, so let's get into this. From ProPublica. To pay for Trump's tax cuts, House GOP floats plan to slash benefits for the poor and working class. A menu of options being circulated by congressional Republicans also includes new tax cuts for corporations and the ultra-wealthy. One of the hallmarks of Donald Trump's presidential campaign was a promise of sweeping tax cuts for the rich, for working people, and for companies alike. New congressional Republicans have the job of figuring out which of those cuts to propose into law. In order to pay for the cuts, they have started to eye some targets to raise money. Among them, cutting benefits for single mothers and poor people who rely on government health care. The proposals are included in a menu of tax and spending cut options circulated this month by House Republicans. Whether or not Republicans enact any of the ideas remains to be seen. Some of the potential targets are popular tax breaks and cuts could be politically treacherous, and cutting taxes for the wealthy could risk damaging the populist image Trump has cultivated. I'm not going to read further. I'll leave that for y'all. Let's go on to the next article. From The Lever, Trump's EPA just deleted climate change. The Environmental Agency just scrubbed most mentions of the global crisis from its online presence. On Monday, the Environmental Protection Agency quietly removed all information about climate change from its homepage and other prominent areas of its website, burying it as deep in sections that are harder to find. Environmental advocates condemned the deletions, part of sweeping efforts to revise federal websites to reflect Trump's agenda, saying the information suppression comes at a time when climate upheaval is intensifying damage and harm. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA's website overhaul, reprised a similar move by Trump's first administration, which touched off a "Don't Say Climate" movement among some Republican-led state governments. The new erasure came 2 days before the U.S. Senate confirmed Trump's nominee to lead the agency, former Republican Lee Zeldin of New York, who has pledged to slash the EPA's funding, roll back environmental protections, and promote more fossil fuel production. So, of course, more evil things that Trump tends to do. From inequality.org, the war on trans people is a culture war and a class war. 3 charts show that trans people have higher unemployment and poverty rates and earn less on average than other Americans. President Trump has launched a new wave of attacks on transgender people, issuing executive orders designed to undermine their protections in the workplace, education and healthcare systems, the military, and other spaces. While some characterize this assault as a culture war, attacks on trans people are also part of a class war. As the data below makes clear, trans people have higher unemployment and poverty rates and earn less than other Americans on average. So when a police officer or business owner engages in transphobia, they typically do so from a position of class advantage. Anti-trans rights actions serve as class war weapons in another way as well. The White House and Republican-controlled Congress are attempting to weaken opposition to the proposed new tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy by sowing divisions among the rest of us based on gender and sexuality, as well as race, gender, immigration status, religion, and other factors. Only by coming together and resisting these attempts to divide us can we protect our democracy and create an economy that works for everyone. We see they show us a chart here. Trans adults are almost twice as likely to be unemployed. And yeah, you can see how common it is, and then how trans adults are usually set higher on this. According to the KFF Washington Post Trans Survey, a larger number of trans adults report being unemployed, 14% versus 8% compared to cisgender non-trans adults. These findings reflect the significant barriers trans individuals already face in employment access and opportunity in the National Center for Transgender Equality 2022 U.S. Trans Survey. More than 1 in 10, 11% of respondents who had ever held a job said they had been fired, forced to resign, or laid off because of their gender identity or expression. We get another chart here showing how trans women make 60 cents for every $1 the typical U.S. worker earns. So yeah. And the final chart, we see poverty is the highest among trans people of color. So yeah, it shows there is a direct correlation in how they're treated. That is also part of the actual class warfare that the rich and Republicans like to wage on Americans. But let's get into some pictures here. This is a wonderful post I found on the Appalachia subreddit. And it shows a post here from a woman who says, "I like punk because it says there's still something to fight for. I like goth because it says even when things get dark, beauty can exist within it. And I like Appalachian bluegrass because it says pick up your banjo and hit a politician with it." Absolutely. From the subreddit Data is Beautiful, we got some good data charts to check out here. First one, Tesla's annual sales from 2015 to 2024, 2025 forecast. We're seeing that, yeah, you see Tesla slowly shrank. 2018, they boomed. Then there's a drop off. There's a boom again in 2021, and then it kind of slow drop off. 2024, the year he decided to be one of Trump's butt buddies, you'll notice the sales of Tesla severely dropped. So yeah, there's a total recorded 1.1% decline in global sales. So yeah, they're expected that in 2025 to pick back up, but we'll see how things work. Here's another chart showing the same thing. Growth, 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 and then it's like bit of a drop there. When you're an asshole, people don't want your products. That's how things work. We see another chart here. that shows how the ownership of guns also lead to higher suicides. On the left, we have the rate of male suicides, and on the bottom, we have percent that live with a gun, and it shows it per state in the circles. And yeah, you can see, look how high Montana is on male suicide rate. Wyoming, Alaska, which those are states there's not a lot of people, so that's probably a big part as well. But you look at the others, West Virginia, very high on the list. There's Idaho, Oklahoma, South Dakota. Yeah. You notice there's less male suicides in the more Democratic areas. Your New Jerseys, your Massachusetts, your New Yorks, California, Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Illinois. Now they've got other charts to look at here. So we have the female suicide rate on percent that live with a gun, male suicide rate on those who live with a gun, and then we look at the female and the male homicide rates on those who live with a gun. You'll notice the female suicide rate is a lot lower than the male suicide rate. The female homicide rate is somewhat lower than the male homicide rate. So yeah. There's the female, what kind of, it's homicide rate. But yeah, some interesting data to look at there. Next thing we're going to look at, this is the only photo from my history porn subreddit I enjoy looking at, where it shows images from history. This image is group photo of officers from the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army, a mixed Chinese-Korean force which fought a guerrilla war against Imperial Japan in Manchuria between 1936 and 1945. Future leader of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, is the second to the right in the first row as a captain, right there. But yeah, let's scroll that up to see a little better. Kim Il-sung right here, this dude. But remember, Japan, as it said, Imperial Japan, it was very much about conquering and owning territory. It owned parts of Korea and different islands and stuff in the South Pacific, owned parts of China. It was brutal. Imperial Japan was. And yeah, so it shouldn't be a surprise there was such a military force against them in the years leading to the Second World War. Now, from the Chicago Star Media, pardoned January 6th writer Hernandez sentenced to 10 years for deadly DUI crash. So here's another one of these January 6th lunatics Trump let out, pardoned, that's committing evils. We've seen pedophilia, we've seen public violence and attempted murder that ended up in one getting shot, and here's one in a DUI crash. From the Kentucky Lantern, Kim Davis's lawyer eager, I can't talk, I apologize for that, but Kim Davis's lawyer eager for the next step as he argues same-sex marriage case before the appeals panel. So yeah, remember she loses the case, but they're still going through the appeals. This Kim Davis, of course, is a Kentucky. I forgot what position she held, but she didn't want it. She thought she shouldn't be forced to be able to hand a homosexual couple their right to be married, to have a marriage certificate. So yeah, that's still going on. But let's look at the next article. From the BBC, singer and actress Marianne Faithfull dies at 78. She's a big singer from the 60s and stuff. But where I most know her from is the song from Metallica. I think it's Until It Sleeps. Because I remember she does a piece in there where she kind of does, it's not so much singing, but it's more of a, she kind of hums it. But, yeah. It says she was also most famously known as the girlfriend for Mick Jagger in the 1960s. Inspiring songs such as Wild Horses and You Can't Always Get What You Want. So yeah. I don't know if they'll mention where she was on the Metallica song or not. No, it is doing back more in the day when she was popular, it looks like. But yeah, I know her more from the oh, there it is. Other collaborators over the years included David Bowie, Lou Reed, Jarvis Cocker, Damon Albarn, Emmylou Harris, and Metallica, whose drummer, Lars Ulrich, thanked Faithfull for her incredible and unique contribution to our music and is always being so willing to join us in performing it. But yeah, I think it was on the Metallica song Until It Sleeps. And I know it wasn't necessarily words, but it's But on to the next article. From the International Business Times. Democrats boycott a vote to advance Trump budget's chief nominee, Russell Vought. He is so clearly unfit for office. And he's also a co-author of Project 2025, much of which Trump's trying to enact on his own. So yeah, this is one of the evil monsters who was part of his designs. I'm glad they're shutting him down. From Common Dreams. It's been just 11 days, but 100,000 people have already signed a petition to impeach Trump again. Yeah, he is not liked. The overwhelming support for impeachment shows that the American people is not willing to accept King Trump, said Alexandra Flores Quilty, Free Speech for People campaign director. So yeah, I've been pointing this out. He is not a good person. Most people do not like him. Yet there's always these idiots who are like, I love you, God King Trump, ha ha. Next article from The Guardian. Democratic governors criticize Chuck Schumer for his weak resistance to Trump, as they should. Exchange between 6 governors and Senate Minority Leader exposes divisions in the party over opposition approach. Yeah, Schumer's always been weak. Pelosi's always been weak. They're in it for themselves. We need more people like Bernie, like AOC, like Ilhan Omar, people that will actually push back. Next article from Salon. Aviation expert says, I'm embarrassed that Trump blames DEI for the DC air disaster. It may take weeks to figure out what went wrong, but experts tell Salon, but politics plays no role in the actual investigation. Which is good. It shouldn't. But of course, we've got moron in chief. Next article from Law and Crime. Efforts to erase the insurrection. Deletion of the January 6th database by Trump administration appears to violate the federal law, a watchdog says. The Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, a federal watchdog group, has penned an open letter to the Inspector General of the Department of Justice and the Archivist of the U.S., urging them to take action and investigate the Department of Justice's removal of its January 6th database, detailing criminal charges and convictions related to the 2021 Capitol attack, which they call a likely violation of the federal law. Get 'em! Don't let that monster get away with all this BS he's trying to pull. From Democracy Now!, Trump says the Washington, D.C. crash should have been prevented days after gutting the Airline Safety Committee. So he screws things up and he's like, well, this should have never happened. Well, you shouldn't have been a moron. From The Guardian. In the most untouched, pristine parts of the Amazon, birds are dying. Scientists may finally know why. Populations have been falling for decades, even in the tracts of forest undamaged by humans. Experts have spent 2 decades trying to understand what's going on. So they may have some indication of what actually is happening with some of these species. From the Associated Press, Panama's president said there will be no negotiation about ownership of the Panama Canal, which is good. It is theirs. They own it. Of course, Trump, being moron and cheap, is like, I'm such a whiny little punk. I want my Panama Canal. I should have the right to do what I want. Wah. That's, typical Trump behavior. From Reuters, Sweden donates $1.2 billion aid package to Ukraine. Well, somebody's got to pick up the slack since we've got idiot in chief and Ukraine's trying to defend itself from the invasion. Again, I don't like the Nazis in Ukraine, but I also don't like psychopath Vlad in Russia. Neither side is great, but Russia was the aggressor. From Forbes, Ukrainian drones flew 500 miles and, in a single strike, damaged 5% of Russia's oil refining capacity. The raid in Kostovo capped a month of devastating attacks on Russian energy. Now remember, we've been talking about Russia. I've discussed this in a previous video. Russia is the aggressor. Ukraine's trying to defend itself. And Russia is suffering because they're experiencing some of the worst inflation they've seen. Their oil sectors are suffering. And yet Putin is unwilling to negotiate. And again, that just shows us how much of a madman he actually is. From the BBC, nurse dies as Uganda confirms new Ebola outbreak. So yeah, the Ebola outbreak going on in Uganda in Africa. Always horrible to see these kind of things happen to people, but yeah, it's something you gotta watch out for. Now let's see some of these videos we've got available here. Trump exploits bigotry to mask the Federal Aviation Administration Director's ouster. Let's go ahead and look at this here. Turn the volume on. Make sure we get it back to the full.
They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration. This was before I got to office. Recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people.
Can you imagine?
Actually, their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened because of the stress. When you have many, many planes coming into one target.
Yeah, he's such a moron. I don't know how people like this guy. He's idiot and a half. Here we got another video. Let's pause that. Turn the volume on. Scroll back. And the title reads, Caitlin Collins challenges Trump's premature blame for the plane crash with 67 unnamed victims.
Don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane, you think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. Please.
God, he's such a whiny little punk. Everything he does, he's such a why are you so nasty, so mean to me? 'Cause you try to hurt people. You do things to hide the truth. You're evil. Let's look at this next video. More people need to do this. Chilean guy confronts the Israeli war criminals who are on holiday in Pucón.
Yes, sir. We search for this guy. You know it? He have a detention order in Chile. No, can you? Yes.
For war crimes in Gaza. Yes.
Can you delete the video?
No, I can't because I'm in my country. No, you go away from my country. You go away. No, you fucking go away. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. Pucón is a Palestinian colony. Did you know? All supermarket it's Palestinian. All restaurant is Palestinian. Yes. This video is for them. Yes. Fuck you, fucking Zionists. Go fucking away. When you eat in some restaurant, you eat very well. Orion, Spitz. Yes, motherfucker.
Get him, dude. Get him. Let's see. Next video. Senator Bennett might have just ended RFK Jr.'s chances of being nominated as Health and Human Services Secretary. Let's go ahead and turn the volume on and scroll back.
Was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people.
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed
I'll
that
take that as
certain
yes.
races
I have to
are
move on.
disproportionate.
I have to move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to
I have the record that shows you did say that. Let's bring it up.
Did you write in your book?
Get him, man. Get him.
It's undeniable that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS. Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy, and my final question. Did you say on a podcast, and I quote, I wouldn't leave it, abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This matters. It does
Did you
matter.
say
I
it?
hear it say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade.
Do I need to hold your hand and treat you like a 5-year-old?
This is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world.
Typical Trump nominees, oh.
The games that you're playing, Mr. Kennedy. And I hope my colleagues will say to the president, I have no influence over him.
They're so full of BS. They love to lie.
Million Americans.
They get confronted and they're like, Oh, goodness. I love when they get what they deserve. And Bernie Sanders challenges RFK Jr. on is health care a fundamental human right? Oh, let's see what that blithering moron has to say.
Very much like the slogan
Get him, Bernie!
coined, Make America Healthy Again. And I strongly agree with that effort. despite spending, as you indicated, 2 or 3 times as much per capita on healthcare as other nations. We have 85 million people who are uninsured, underinsured. We have all kinds of chronic illnesses. Our life expectancy is lower than other countries. And for working class people in this country, they are living 6, 7 years shorter lives than the top 1%. We got a problem, okay? And I'm going to suggest some ideas that I think can remedy that. Last year, the insurance industry in this country made over $70 billion, while at the same time 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. Do you agree with me that the United States should join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a human right? Yes? No?
Senator, I can't give you a yes or no answer to that question.
It's a yes or no question. Do people deserve that right? The answers are yes or no. It's not let me blither and talk stupid like I really am. Bernie gave you a simple directive, yes or no answer. And of course, RFK Jr., being the moron he is, next video, why the Maori people of New Zealand Aotearoa feel the pain of the Palestinians living through the genocide being committed by Israel.
When you've survived a genocide, you know what a genocide looks like.
Yep.
We feel the pain as one Indigenous peoples to another, but particularly when we see the genocide, the intentional murdering and butchering of these little babies that are an attempt to end a wakapapa, or an attempt to end the existence of their family, their community, and those people. It breaks our heart. The feeling that we have is what we have when, as an Indigenous people in Aotearoa, when the colonisers singled us out, tried to extinguish our existence by doing things like violently butchering our children, our women, our families, our language, our communities. Just recently, we have been exposed in the absolute grief of seeing a baby's head dismembered from its body. That is the biggest sacredness or breach of sacredness that you could ever do for us as Māori. We have a saying in where I'm from, Kuria we mate, ka mate kote mate. So even in death, we don't die. You may try to extinguish us, but our wakapapa will carry on, and we will continue to bring babies. We will continue to fight for our whenua and fight for our freedom, because our lineage, and indeed the speaking of the lineage before us and the fighting and staying alive for the lineage yet to be born is an intrinsic part of who we are. I recognise and see that in our Palestinian whānau as well, is that you can't ever extinguish, and it doesn't matter what power, profit, allies you use.
Yeah, let's pause right there. So many native peoples, the Maori in New Zealand, the natives in the Aborigines in Australia, the native peoples of North America, in Canada, the US, Mexico, all of them have been put through what is ethnic cleansing genocide campaigns. They know what it looks like and what Israel is doing to Palestinians is genocide. There is no doubt. There is no excuses that are viable in such situations. Human dignity, human life is what matters. Which it disgusts me that both Biden and Trump were happy to allow Israel to continue to commit their genocide. Anyway, let's continue on the video here. The Haka, yeah.
The amount of rallies that are going on every weekend, they have not stopped. I know that it's really disheartening to see governments and presidents and prime ministers doing what they're doing, but history will show that we are right, and we have to stand strong for the next generation who will look at this blueprint and who will absolutely look in disgust at the genocide. And we will continue to call out this nation and use our platform to advocate for the recognition of Palestine, for the ending of the genocide, for the sanctioning on Israel, for the removal of the Israel ambassador, for the continuing of sanctions across the world, for the divesting into Israel. We've got to always be on the right side of history.
As I've said before, history does not care about your political view. It will hold you as evil for what you have done, Israel, Netanyahu, and these politicians in the U.S. who bend the knee to such monsters, allowing a genocide to continue. History does not care. It just records the facts. And eventually, no matter how hard you try to push them down, they will always come to light.
We stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people.
But yeah, good video on that one. Final video we're going to watch here. Donald Trump said that U.S. will use detention center at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to hold tens of thousands of the worst criminal aliens. Here's what we know. Turn the sound on, scroll back. Now remember, Guantanamo Bay in Cuba is where we held illegally prisoners in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, because there was such an evil fervor to punish those who committed 9/11. But they were willing to toss their humanity away to do it, and that's not the way it's done. And so he's willing to reuse this evil place to put migrants, people most of the time just looking for a better life.
I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
President Donald Trump has said that the U.S. will use a detention center at Guantanamo Bay to hold tens of thousands of the quote, worst criminal aliens.
Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them, because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
Guantanamo Bay is the U.S. naval base best known for suspects brought in after...
Think honestly, Trump needs to be put in Guantanamo.
The September 11, 2001 attacks. It also has a small separate facility used for decades to hold migrants. Border Czar Tom Homan said U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement would run the facilities ready to receive criminal immigrants in the U.S. illegally.
There's already a migrant center there. It's been there for decades. So we're just going to expand upon the existing migrant center.
The U.S. has leased Guantanamo from Cuba for more than a century, but Cuba opposes the lease and typically rejects the nominal U.S. rent payments. Cuban government officials criticized Trump's decision and called it a, quote, act of brutality.
Yep. Again, Trump's just clearly a evil, I don't even want to call him a human being. He's not even fit to be called a human being. So let's just say he's evil. Anyway, we'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, if I can get the cursor to move from me here, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and I will be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video as always. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.